I'll go quiet. I want you to see the church. I haven't been in the cathedral in a few weeks. And I'm going to talk and walk out. There's a couple of workers in here. But I'll try to mention, I didn't mention one of the things about the discussion that we're having right now in the sacredness of our elections. But look how pretty it is in here. This is the cathedral, and I'll walk out and then I'll talk. I wasn't sure if it would be open today, but it was. And you have the Kohler Times over here. I just passed them up. You have the courthouse right behind me. You have the police department here. This is somewhat, if you will, the seat of authority for Nueces County. Sacred and secular. A lot of the discussion you're hearing is, today there's hearings going on as I speak. Dan Coates and Mike Rogers and various people that are in charge of our intelligence agencies. They're before Congress, and they're still, it's the whole thing of the Russia investigation. The initial statement of Mike Rogers was he's the head of the NSA, and he's been the head of the NSA, one of our intelligence agencies, for 3 years. His opening statement was, in my 3 years as the head of the NSA, I have had no pressure, no discussions, any way, shape, or form where President Trump or anybody has tried to hinder or sway our investigations into anything. Basically, some on the left were hoping that Mike Rogers would say, yes, Mr. Trump approached me or whatever. Now, they're under oath. Same thing with Dan Coates. Some Angus King, some of the Democrats are upset and the hearing's going on. Okay. Kohler Times. Now, why am I discussing somewhat of the Kohler Times today? Regardless of whatever view people have, you should look honestly at the human cost or the human tragedy of a certain thing. Now, all of the various media that you see, those who say we're upset because maybe Russia or another country tried to interfere with something that is sacred. Now you hear people who are non-religious using that term. Historically, the sacred and secular division in philosophy and in thinking. But really, to me, it's a misnomer, because the kingdom of God is the foundation of everything, all right? But for the sake of, so some say we are upset because we have an ethical groundwork that the free elections, which I'm for, I don't want Russia or anybody interfering. We feel that maybe Russia or Trump and maybe they tried to interfere with our free elections. And because it's something we value, which is okay to value, that's why they're calling it sacred and they don't know what they're talking about, but therefore we're upset. Okay, good. Are you upset about racism in society? Yes. That's why I mentioned the book from Charles Darwin called The Descent of Man. That was the same book that was used in the Scopes trial, the famous monkey trial in Tennessee, Butler, Tennessee. But it had to do with the whole thing of the teaching of evolution in schools and so forth. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But the fact was, whether you understand it or not, whatever your views are on all these issues, it instilled a racism, because it officially taught, and it really doesn't change, but it officially taught that some species, white men, were more advanced than black men. And that was in the writings, that was in the documents. There was a science of one of the relatives of Darwin, and the science of eugenics, which later influenced Adolf Hitler. This is history. And eugenics basically said, well, if it is true that the white man is more advanced than the blacks, and there's so much racism in this, in this quote science. It said eugenics was if we eliminate the races or the people that are just less noble, then maybe man would advance quicker. That took hold of thinking in the Third Reich and Hitler's regime, his deluded idea of the Jewish people, but also Hitler killed handicapped and others. And this thinking actually was the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. She had many writings about that. The origination of maybe we should help eliminate. Okay, but we value humanity and we value people. But where do we get these values from? Where do you get your values from when there are articles in the Polar Times? Some of them did upset me because when the debate took place about discussions of abortion, in this city you have various Catholic churches, one off of Saratoga, they have all the white crosses for all the aborted babies. It's a value of human life that people hold to. They value that. But when that discussion makes it into the media, Polar Times right now, and when you hold a view that is mocking, that's how they reported the issue that took place in Texas over the Planned Parenthood videos. They had a particular guy that had a smile on his face. He's an editorial person. And they mocked it. They said, oh, look at all these fake videos talking about the dismemberment of children. The reality is, in late-term abortion, that is exactly what happens. So, but their impression is, when we fight against those who are pro-life, we are somehow standing up for the freedom and rights of people. Okay, where are you basing that value? You say, but we are liberal-minded people. If you were just, and you did what is just, you would look honestly at those issues. If people in society, media, if they're just and they're honest, they would have been upset when the previous administration, President Obama, went after all of the people that leaked and charged them with espionage and reporters and so forth. They would have, but there was not much on it. The recent release, that was an actual news story that came out a couple weeks ago, that the FISA courts were very upset. They basically said the Obama administration violated laws when they did certain surveillance and all, and it was going on. If that was Trump administration, that would be showing illegality right there, using that power. But so media, when they are biased, even when they don't realize it, they trample on the rights of people. Because the most severe case I just gave you was we live in a time today where we now recognize late-term abortion is a very hideous thing. And we want to empathize with the women that are in those situations. But when you call yourself media and you speak truth and you mock those who seriously have, many sincere people have developed their view, what is sacred is human life. Just like those liberals who are very upset that, oh, maybe Russia interfered with something that's very sacred to us. Where's the foundation? Where do you get your foundation for ethics from? I watched a philosopher the other day. I was also listening to the old teachings on Nietzsche, just going through philosophy. But that's what was questioned at that time. What exactly is right and wrong, and is there right and wrong? We call it natural law. But anyone with common sense, in our day and age, we now realize on my various sites that I'm on, some of them are like Black Lives Matter sites, because you've heard me speak out on those issues. I don't consider that a liberal or I saw abuse. I didn't comment on one of the most recent videos, but it was a white officer who pulled over a black young man, and he pulled out his phone. And he said, I'm going to record this. Now, this was on video on the news a few weeks ago. And that white cop, big guy, He punched that black kid punched him right in the face. Now, I guess the other officer wrote in the report what the other cop did. Look, yes, those things upset me. I'm not basing that on a liberal view, conservative view. That's an oppressive thing that officer did. It upsets me, yes, if President Obama goes after reporters, which he did, and went and targeted them. But it would upset me as much if Trump was doing those things. But in your media, in our media in this country, no, that's not what they're doing. They did something on Michael Flynn on Top News the other day. Michael Flynn, obviously, at this stage, would never want to voluntarily, because they want to put these people in prison. But Flynn said, you know what, I'll willingly give some information, but the others, look, legal advice, I'm not going to do it. And the media reported this on War Media. Flynn will release some of the evidence of crimes, you see, but he will not release the other evidence of crimes. I never heard the media. First of all, when Hillary Clinton destroyed all of the emails after Congress said, we want them, and then I never once heard it reported as she destroyed evidence. And the media went on and simply said, oh yes, well, all those emails she destroyed, they never referred to it as evidence. Now you media, you stir up people in this country. That reality winner girl, young girl from Kingsville. I don't want to go after her. But you've stirred up things in this country. From the testimony today that's taking place, and James Comey testifies tomorrow, from everything that we know, the whole Trump-Russia thing. Yes, Russia tried to interfere. They've done these things before. Megyn Kelly, now with the other news network, talked to Putin. But you know, Putin wasn't, she interviewed Putin for her new, she left Fox, Megyn Kelly. Putin said, you know, and he was right actually, because they talk about evidence. Well, we can IP addresses. We live in a society where there was a lady in some court cases, she was a lab tech. She was falsifying, they overturned many cases. Because cases, when you do in criminal cases, which we do right here down the street, all of the evidence that DNA testing and all, she falsified all that. Now that's actual evidence. And when you're dealing with evidence saying IP addresses and all these things, there are so many ways that you could distort them. We know even today. And so when you say we have evidence because of things like that, talking about hacking, you know, that is questionable. We know that we have the capability to do all that. But Putin was talking, the whole Russia thing is yes. There's no doubt that they tried to interfere. But was Trump part of that? Because of this, even him publicly saying, I hope if you found the emails Russia's got them, please release them. Look, if he was really part of some conspiracy, he would have never said something like that in public. It shows you how non-establishment he is. Now today and tomorrow, Comey's going to testify. From all we know, Russia tried, made attempts to have influence. And that's it. That's it. There was no behind-the-scenes collusion with any meetings. Putin, and I believe him, he said when he sat next to, I think it was Flynn, in the Megyn Kelly interview, he said, I didn't even know. And I actually do think they laugh at us. So, John, what does that got to do with us? Look, if you want to be a good caller time, you want to be a good KRS News headquarters right down there where Pops live, I made a little plaque for Pops. I'll show it next time I do a video. He asked me when he said, Preacher John, when I die, will you make a little granite plaque for me? Like I did one for Charlie Boy, or my daughter made one. And I had forgot to keep that promise. So yesterday, it's in my yard, but it's his Pops. His day he was born, the day he died. I don't know if the media even serves a good service And that's the other quote, sacred thing. Many were saying, many in the whole debate were saying, if you come against the media, you're attacking the foundations of a free society. But what about all the media stories that were fabricated? PBS actually is doing a thing how to spot fake news. But look, as clear as I could say this, when we speak fake news, the issue of the abortion thing that took place in Texas, the undercover people that work for that Christian group had discussions with the Planned Parenthood here in Texas. And in those discussions, when you watch those videos, they talked about, quote, the sale or the donation of money and how much they could get at certain body parts. Now, those were true videos. Those were true, but it was horrendous when you listened to it, when you just listened to the discussion. Well, what the media did over a period of time was reported in all the media outlets. They were highly edited, but all that was edited, Congress, Democrats and Republicans, they investigated that. They had a congressional committee on that. They were shown to not be edited except for like bathroom breaks, because those talks went on for a few hours. Now understand, those talks were talks that you should consider something that was sacred, because it was discussions about how to get money and quote donations of the sale of body parts and all. But the media then, over a period of time, and many today believe they were fake videos. They were not fake. They were not fake. And the woman that was discussing in a horrendous way something that was sacred, which was body parts, she actually, that was all true. None of that was fake. But by continually referring to that atrocity, even Color Times referred to it as highly edited, they eventually managed over a period of time to give many people the opinion that none of that goes on. Oh, truly, children are not being dismembered and parts are not being donated for money. But all of that is taking place still. Now, Texas just recently in the legislation is going to make that illegal, but other states still do it. But yet the media has now given you false news because they changed something that was sacred, the life of a child, that indeed is being treated like rubbish, and they managed to make you believe, the majority of the public, that all of that was fake. But it goes on today. Those women who've had abortions, God forgives everything. But that's something that's sacred. And if you cannot, if your own media bias, whether you are liberal, Republican, conservative, I was critical. I believe President Obama, he's continuing to speak, obviously. Everything I've heard Mr. Obama say since he left office, I think he's spoken well. I think he's tried to give balance. I heard people on both sides criticize some of former Obama's speeches. I've heard many criticize him. I was listening to a conservative radio show. Oh, I want to make two mentions, by the way. But a conservative radio show who played part of the speech that Obama gave overseas, I believe. And he said, we want to defend the rights of immigrants. And talking about, he could have been much more harsh. He said, but we also understand that leaders of nations are leaders of nation states, and they do have borders, and they do have, and so the liberals didn't like that. When I heard him speak, that little clip that was played on conservative radio, the conservative talk show guy blasted him. And I immediately said, he spoke well. I immediately said, no, Mr. Obama is speaking well. He's trying to be, I don't see him as divisive in anything that he has said that I have heard. Now, two things on local media. I do listen sometimes to the local media personalities. One is Jim Lago. Lago, I listened to him, and he had Chief Markle, the chief of the PD, yesterday or the day before. Look, whenever I hear Chief Markle speak, I'm never upset. I think he speaks well. But I heard Jim Lago talk about his daughter had passed away on Easter. You know, of course, I said my condolences. I felt not depressed when I heard that, but I thought, oh, I don't know how I would be able to handle that. So I'm very sorry to hear that. And Eric Von Wade, who I used to listen to, he's also a talk radio host at Corpus Christi. And I like Eric Von Wade. I used to listen to him, I haven't in a while. But the Cola Times did an article, and this is what clued me in. I guess he got arrested. Maybe a domestic, him and his girlfriend were, the article said, were in an argument. Cops came and then they arrested Von Wade. And the Cola Times said he's decided to take it to the airwaves, and that he was talking, not bad-mouthing, but he was criticizing the Corpus Christi Police Department publicly on his radio show. They had a little clip from the girl, but now I guess there was a domestic thing that happened. Neighbors heard maybe him saying, get out, kicked her out of the apartment, I don't want you here. But then she called the cops, said, oh, he hit me or whatever. Von Wade is disputing that. But what happened was he got arrested. And he said, look, I'm going to defend. He criticized the way the PD handled it. And when he got arrested, his girlfriend supposedly stole his truck and took it down close to Mexico. And he was mad because the PD, obviously the girlfriend and somebody else stole the truck from what Von Wade is saying. And he felt that they kind of just, like the girl was like, I want you to arrest him, I want you to arrest him. Okay, we'll arrest him. And whether it's true or not. And then, obviously, auto theft is a felony, I believe. But they kind of let that slide. That's what Eric Von Wade said. And the PD responded, cops responded and said, well, we found it. We located it. It's some other city down south from here. But obviously, she did have that truck stolen. So she got away with that. And, I found it interesting. A few years ago, and we've had a lot of these issues. I believe this court here, you have many of the people that were in office for a long time. I believe it's time for them to be removed, voted out, because a lot that happened with the Skirka thing. I mentioned the Hayden case, and they tried to interview Skirka. He refused. That man's just awaiting judgment from God, because what he did is they used a lot of things, false testimony, lies, and all. And there were two particular cases where a girl lied about a local mechanic. That was all. It came out that she lied about being bound. They sent him up, I guess, for life in prison. But I'm sure Skirka, because he was the DA at the time, he probably knew that girl was lying. But a few years ago, there was a lady that I knew, and her and a lady friend of hers who was known to be a shoplifter, actually has shoplifted regularly. That happens. Well, the cops had pulled them over because they forgot to use their blinker. I think that's what it was, the blinker. So, but they were in a rush. I don't know if the other person shoplifted or not. But the person that was innocent, the lady friend, she's telling me the story. And they asked something about it, and the lady said, oh, my friend just had a seizure. My friend just had a seizure. And the cop knew that the lady was lying for her friend. But whatever they gave her, a ticket or something like that, I don't know. But when the lady's telling me the story, she's mad. She said, who does that cop think he is to say that I, a woman, am lying? And as the lady's telling me the story, that she was very upset, she said, who do they think they are? And she would have fought that. And as she was telling me the story, she was mad because she lied to the cop and said her friend had a seizure, but it wasn't that, it was something else. And I'm listening, I said, but you're really mad at that cop? Yes! Even though I lied, I'm mad because he did not believe the lie. And that makes me offended. So I will push that lie to carry it forward. And I realized, even in some of these cases where the mechanic case, even though that girl lied, But they convicted him. She lied about being out. She's still involved in some of that stuff she was involved in. She still would be outraged, even though she lied, accusing that man and Mr. Sturka, and much corruption took place right down the block here. Yet they went forward with that, knowing that they were lied. She lied about being kidnapped and bound. And this whole took place here in Oasis County, ranked number 2 most corrupt in the U.S. as a county in the court system. But I learned a lesson from that. Even if, in that case, a woman was highly offended because someone did not believe the lie. And I thought, justice, though, is when you deal with truth. I can honestly say that abortion upsets me. When I see the late-term abortions, you see somebody posted on my various social media sites. On Facebook, I'm linked to like a pro-life group, but it shows little models and like little fetuses, children at the stage of 6 months, and 7 months, and 5 months. Of course, they're perfectly beautiful babies, but one of the things came up and it showed how those 2 little life-like baby figures of children at the age of 5 months and 6 months and 7 months, that just showing those to women who are 5 months pregnant, many women that are minorities or in poverty and that have no idea. And they said that a lot of the girls, when they're coming for the abortion for the 5 months through Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion provider in the country, that when they see the Christian ladies outside showing them those models, saying, well, this is the size of your child, this is what your child looks like at 5 months, that many of the girls are turning away from the abortion. Now, all of that is doing, the media would report that to you as conservative right-wing nut jobs, just showing those probably Catholic women, showing those beautiful, beautiful formed models of their children at that age, just saying this is what your child looks like at the age of 5 months and 6 months in the womb. And many of the girls said, oh, we had no idea. We didn't know we were doing that. That's simply being informative. But the media, colder times than others, would report that those Catholic women praying the rosary and all, they would report that they are harassing, that they're racists, that they're living. That's how the media reports fine, wonderful, old Catholic Mother Teresa women doing the rosary, just simply showing those beautiful, showing truth. Do you understand? That's the difference between sacred and secular. That life is sacred. So, I believe I had somewhat of a vision, and I didn't share it. But it was a picture of this was not pornographic, okay? It was a picture of Nick Jimenez and just the people, because I see their pictures. And I saw them naked before God, and babies, and babies. And as I saw that image in my mind, I saw older people. I don't want to say grotesque, but it was like naked before God and saying, why would you have used part of your life to advocate for the slaughter of those kids? That's what I saw. That was about a week ago. That's played on my anger towards some of what you hear me speak. And I thought, and when you're at that judgment, all of the other stuff you think you've accomplished, speak righteousness. We had a gay pride parade, and it was very open, very public. They did it. But let me say something. When you talk about some of the cases, I have gay friends and all. But when you refuse to deal with the high percentage of suicide of those who had sex change operations, and many of the hospitals that used to do it, a very famous one, they stopped doing it years ago because the rate of suicide amongst those that were having sex change operations was so high. But they were afraid to actually report it because if they told the truth about, we affirm people in the sense of we love all people. But if you knew the statistics on those who have sex change operations and how high the suicide rate is and depression rate, to love those people, you would say, Many people have made this choice and they're possibly confused about their identity, and we're not being judgmental. But because the rate is so high, if we really love you, but would our media here, would the Kohler Times ever even speak of that? No. Because they're more concerned, in many cases, with looking like they're affirmative, even if their opinions are destructive. An honest reporting of the science of abortion, how we know today, but they would never cover any of that. Back in the old days, we used to think it was just a cell or a blob or a tumor. But now we know, obviously. But no. So what do you deem sacred? So today, in the beautiful church, okay? I lift up these issues. This will be like number 3. I'll post the other one. I probably went long. God bless everybody.